The Kalisha House of Bets and Wings set an over-under line for Luka at 36.5 last night.
Yeah.
Way under. Way. You're going the wrong way, my friend. Will the house survive? Also, Colts QB competition. I think it's good for Anthony. Whoa, I'm not suspicious as a sportscaster. I'm suspicious as an Anthony. I think it's good for Anthony. Whoa, I'm not suspicious as a sportscaster. I'm suspicious as an Anthony. Let's go around the horn. I've heard it's good for an Anthony before, and it hasn't been good for an Anthony. I'll say that. Tier 23, I think I should go to Anthony Reality as the host of the show. Can we do that?
Yeah, we like that.
Indianapolis Colts GM Chris Ballard made news this week at the Combine, saying the team will have a real open competition at quarterback this summer. Anthony Richardson and a yet-to-be-drafted or traded for or signed quarterback. It's what's best for the team, and it's going to be good for Anthony, Ballard put it. Indy drafts 14th in the first round. Whether you see a pick there or maybe a trade up or a Matthew Stafford or anyone else around the horn to Kevin Clark.
They've answered every single question, and Tony, you've got a lot of questions on this particular topic, wrong since they drafted Anthony Richardson 2 years ago. They've bungled the situation, and right now, I'm afraid it's beyond repair. You took one of the most athletic quarterbacks we've ever seen at the Combine. You let him play for a month, he gets hurt. You let him play for another month when he gets healthy. You bench him for Joe Flacco, who, by the way, was supposed to steady the ship. He steadied nothing. And then all of a sudden you say, oh, we're going to bring in another guy. You have to give someone like Anthony Richardson a long runway to develop. They haven't done that. All of a sudden, Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen are trying to save their jobs. They're trying to get a veteran in right now. For me, that would be somebody like a Justin Fields if I had to choose. But I just think that this was the wrong situation from the get-go. Anthony Richardson was failed. That doesn't mean he's a great quarterback, but he was failed in the situation. The whole thing is a football tragedy. The whole thing is football malpractice.
Well, you think it's Justin Fields. It's not Matthew Stafford. It's not trading up to get Cam Ward. It's not.
I don't think
Sanders.
Stafford. Yeah, I don't think Stafford is going to want to be in that situation in a quote-unquote competition. No.
Jen Ladd, I'll go to you on what's good for the Colts and good for an Anthony.
Yeah, Richardson was always going to be high risk, high reward. You mentioned the athleticism and obviously the big arm strength, but he was raw coming out of Florida. Everybody knew that. He needs to play. He needs reps. So now you're going to bring somebody else in who is going to share those reps with the number ones. I'm nervous about Anthony Richardson, just generally speaking. You had the immaturity early last year when he pulled himself out of a game saying that he was tired. Some of the veteran players had to talk to him about that. You have this injury now that he talked about in January where he said it was a back injury. He's been dealing with it since he was in 8th grade. Hopes it's not chronic. Well, I hope it's not chronic either, and so do the Colts fans. I just think this is a bad situation all around. I don't think it's a great endorsement for a guy who you want to be confident and go out there and be intrinsically motivated to need another quarterback in the room to get his best version of himself. So this makes me nervous. I like the Justin Fields suggestion. It's the same direction I would go. If for no other reason, guys, then coaches really like having two quarterbacks who play similar styles of football in that room so they don't have to have a ton of variance with their schemes. So I think a Justin Fields would be a good guy to have in there if you're going to go this route, which I still don't
Tim
love.
Kalishaw around the horn of you on Indianapolis.
Yeah, it may be true, like Kevin said, that the Colts failed Anthony Richardson, but I think he's failed them as well. When you're throwing 47% completions in your second season, that's a percentage from the Joe Namath era of throwing the ball downfield. That's not a percentage anybody has in today's game. And when you're Bart Starr, who was probably never down at 47%, and you're 53rd in passer rating, and Jen mentioned some of the problems he had as a leader, you would say. If they're drafting a quarterback, it's not to come in and realistically compete with Anthony Richardson. If they're drafting one in the first couple rounds, it's a guy to be their next quarterback. And if somehow Anthony Richardson puts it all together in the meantime, that's fine. But I don't think.
So you believe there's a little window dressing here to
make
make something good for an Anthony when that's not really.
It's a nice way of saying this isn't going well. We need a quarterback.
Clinton Yates around the horn of you.
Anthony, what do I tell you all the time? Quarterback is
Worst
the worst
coach
coach
position
in the league, and this is another example of that situation unfolding. That being said, I do not actually have a problem with this decision from the Colts. If they're basically looking at this and saying, we don't know what Richardson can be based on all the methods we've tried, as idiotic as they may have been, as Kevin Clark pointed out, there's still nothing wrong with me to breaking out of competition to just plain play football. I actually kind of like this honesty from the team. You say, listen, we bring somebody in, we've got to do something. Whether or not his career develops the way that it should have or not is another matter, but I like the fact that they're being straight up about what their plans are for their offense.
And what do you think that might be, Clinton? Is that Stafford? Is that Fields? Is that a draft pick?
I don't mind a Jameis Winston coming in. You know, he's a guy that was in a similar situation. People considered him kind of immature until he figured it out as a quarterback. I think that there are solutions to this problem.
Casey, last word.
Yeah, to me, this was over last October when Shane Steichen was asked, hey, is Anthony Richardson going to start again? And he kind of said, yeah, maybe. I'd love that for him. There was no organizational support. They didn't market the benching well. I just don't think it was anything.
And Jen Latta, one little bit after the horn.
Well, I think a guy like Sam Darnold or Matthew Stafford are going to have opportunities to start elsewhere in the league, so I don't think that they are realistic options to go in there and push Anthony
Let's
Richardson.
move on to another story. Another GM talking at the Combine. Andrew Berry of the Cleveland Browns once again saying Cleveland has no interest in trading Myles Garrett. It would not be in their best interest to trade their best player. Garrett, as we all know, publicly requested and politely requested a trade 23 days ago. Tim Kalishaw, around the horn to you on the Browns' position they're in. Should they be so resolute? Should other teams be calling, or should they stop calling?
One, I think teams should always call. Two, I think you should always listen to calls in case somebody wants to give you a Khalil Mack or bigger type package of players and picks for somebody like that. But I doubt that anybody does. Just people overvalue their own picks so much. They're really reluctant to put those kind of things together, especially for a player who's moved on from his first contract and now is kind of a salary cap. Somebody you got to watch when you're dealing with that. It's much better for the Browns to keep Myles Garrett. Obviously, he's a great player. He's the key to their defense. I don't think he's going anywhere, but you always listen.
Glenn Yates?
Yeah, I think he actually misplayed this. He's just a little too good with a little too much time on his contract and in the wrong league to be making demands like this, to be expecting to be getting dealt. I mean, the Browns are not a team that has anybody really to market themselves around, never mind play football around other than him. Listen, I understand what he's talking about. He doesn't think that they're in a winning situation, but that's just not how the league works at this point. And it's unfortunate because he's a nice young man who a lot of people like, but this is the wrong kind of negotiation tactic. I don't think it's going to work out for him.
Kevin Clark?
Agree with Clinton. Hey, Myles, what tipped you off that you weren't in a winning situation? Was it when you got drafted by the Cleveland Browns?
All right.
I think that in general, no more guaranteed money left on his contract. But here's the deal on that. No NFL team, in my opinion, has ever traded a star player they wanted to keep. Normally, teams wait an extra year, an extra 2 years. That's just the reality of it. The franchise tag, these long contracts, they keep guys like Myles Garrett in the facility. They don't. Trade requests are ignored all the time in the NFL. It's very unique in that regard. But to me, if I'm the Browns, I'm listening to every single package. I'm listening and just seeing if there's something where I can hit the reset button, get 3 first-round picks. The timing doesn't work out. The Deshaun Watson saga has ruined the franchise. I would look for a soft reset here with the Myles Garrett trade.
And Jen Latta.
Well, to Clinton's point, yeah, if you're in the NBA, you just stomp your feet and throw a temper tantrum long enough, they ship you out to California, right, Jimmy Butler? I mean, in the NFL, it doesn't really work out that way. I will say this, though, guys. Barry is best known right now, fair or unfair, as being the guy who greenlit the Deshaun Watson situation, which is considered one of the worst trades in the history of the NFL. You lost 3 first-round draft picks for that, and what have you gotten for it? This, to me, is a solution to that problem. At least try to recoup a couple of those first-round draft picks by dealing a guy who doesn't want to be there, who wants to win, doesn't see an opportunity to win in Cleveland. I know they have 9 draft picks in the upcoming draft, guys, but even with all those picks, if they all were to hit, they cannot get better off their offensive production, their special teams, and their turnover margin. We're all last or second to last in the league.
You say that, though.
This is not a quick fix. They're not going to win with him there.
I'll submit Washington as
Not
a
that
team
quick.
that turned it around that quick. They were the lowest in the
Yeah.
league in a lot of metrics, and of course, in ownership as well.
Ownership change, ownership change.
You may be a solution to get some picks back to trade Myles Garrett. You also may be the GM who trades away a Hall of Famer then at that point. One more story here. Nick Sirianni defending his push. Said that the league could vote to ban a play is unfair, insulting. Said it's been portrayed as automatic. It's not. They work hard on it. Clinton Yates, as we get to a potential vote on the tush push. Is it all you can't beat a disallowed situation?
Yes, this is completely ridiculous. Bigger, stronger, faster. That's what football is. If your dudes can't stop our dudes, you need to get better dudes, not change the actual rules. This is completely insane to me. The fact that you could think about adjudicating something differently because the point of football is being solved for by a team that is better than your team. I cannot understand how this is remotely realistic to do at
Tim
all.
Kalishaw?
Stop it. It's football.
20 years ago, there were rules against aiding a runner. Linemen couldn't push their running backs down the field when they get into a pile. They got rid of that rule. If you're going to try to change this, you have to try to change all of that. And that happens in a lot of plays in the NFL, not just in the
Jen Latta.
Why am I picturing NFL offenses practicing the tush push like covertly, like Shooter McGavin was practicing Happy Gilmore's hockey golf swing, like when he was trying to get it done? Tom Brady was 90% at one point, guys, on quarterback sneaks. Derrick Henry was like 85% on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 over a 5-year stretch of his career. Did we ban those guys? Did we say those were too good? It feels petty, and I do think that Sirianni is correct in his assessment.
Kevin Clark.
I'm agreeing with Tim a lot today, except on the subject of who has better hair. But I agree, if you're going to look at anything, it's the pushing. It's the pushing that comes from behind, but I wouldn't ban the play. I think that this is, if it was easy, everybody would do it. This is Jalen Hurts being able to move
I'm
his lower
confused.
body.
The pushing is the play. Isn't it? I mean, it's the tush push. So
No, but
QB sneaks are not being banned, but the tush
I
push,
would
the
look at
pushing
that.
is what we're talking about, right?
I would competition committee can look at maybe there's different types of shoving. I don't know. For me, I think that that's the violation to me. The kind of catapulting over the line. Whatever. Look at it.
I have some
Guys are
business to
obliterating
take
each
care of.
other at all
This is the
times.
equivalent of saying Happy New Year in the middle of January. I have a Super Bowl bonus to give out. Jen Latta, how did she do it? Picking the Eagles to win and being so patient to get that bonus. There it is. Taking a break. Buy or sell next.
What am I?
19 points, way under Kalishaw's line. A triple-double by the end of game for Doncic. The look after that shot in the first quarter was worth the price of admission. That image of Nico Harrison glancing over during shoot-around as well. Thank you, Nico chants from the LA crowd as the Lakers cold-pressed the Mavericks in the game. Clinton, you were there. Take away.
My takeaway is that emotionally, Luka has found his place on this Lakers team. It was still very difficult, I think, for a long time for him to deal with the fact that he was uprooted. The game before that on Saturday against Denver, they had a good basketball game. This was different. It was at home. He got things started in his normal manner of getting a tech early and then settled into it. And after the game, he said, I'm just glad this is over with. I can't imagine how awkward that was for him. And he managed to get through it, and the team got a win. Strong
Tim
game. for the Lakers.
Kalishaw?
Yeah, I was hoping he would make it more than 5 minutes. I thought that double tech could be a problem for the viewers if he got carried away there. Yes, we expected a little too much. Did I mention yesterday that Kyrie Irving was going to outscore him? I know I thought it. You may have cut me off before I got to that, but I know that was in my notes that I was going to put on there. So he didn't have a ton of points. He had 15 assists, or 12 assists, 15 rebounds. He had the triple-double. He did what he needed to do. He'll be better.
Laddie, you have a takeaway from Luka versus the Mavericks?
Yeah, my biggest takeaway was the emotional undertones that Clinton referenced. Obviously, we talked about Nico in his electric blue villain suit, watching as Luka warmed up. They honored Anthony Davis, for goodness sakes. Now, he wasn't playing, but that was another element that, laid down the storyline. You had Mark Cuban laughing with Luka's father, who Luka's father had been very vocal about how his son didn't deserve what had happened to him. All of those storylines really contributed to this being a more intriguing and entertaining game, even if you didn't think it was a great game all around.
Kevin Clark.
I'm going to tell you who disagrees with Nico Harrison's evaluation of Luka Doncic. The Dallas Mavericks defense. They double-teamed Luka on 25% of possessions. That's a season high last night, 21 touches. Luka had 51 points scored or assisted on. That is one of the best performances ever against in the first game against a former team that a player played for. This was a special performance
right?
all around. It showed his value. 9th best in history.
Can't think of any to oppose or to support it. Okay, fine. We'll move on. Buy or sell to Diana Taurasi's retirement. The scroll of accomplishments could run us through PTI. I'm going to add one thing, though. One busted door in Chicago, as the legend goes. Scores upon scores of tributes still coming in. Kevin Clark, how will you remember Diana Taurasi?
One of the greatest winners in the history of sports. One of 6 women to have multiple gold medals, multiple WNBA championships, and multiple NCAA tournament championships. That is special stuff. In 2003, she had the best points per game ever in a women's tournament, 26 points there per game. She is special.
Oh, I don't think that's right. Cheryl Swoops, Caitlin Clark have to be more in tournament averages. But okay.
Says that she left the game a much better place than when she came in, and the fact that she's getting celebrated in the mainstream is a testament to how much she helped grow the game.
Jen Latta?
Yeah, she's one of one. I loved how she put it as being mentally and physically full. For somebody who had an insatiable hunger to be great, this idea of being full as opposed to physically couldn't do it anymore, or the game had broken her, or the game had driven her away. She was satisfied. That was really rewarding to hear. I also think from a female standpoint, the idea that she was this ultra competitor who made no bones about wanting to go out there and win and almost humiliate her opponents, that was a great example for people who exist in a space where you have to be competitive in order to succeed, and I think that that's part of her legacy as
Tim
well.
Kalishaw.
You know, as much as she obliterated all the WNBA records, I think of her time at UConn. When she got there, UConn had won 4 championships, but they were a team that was battling Tennessee for women's supremacy. After she left and won 4 more titles, UConn was the best program, men's, women's sports in any major team sport. You expected them to win every year, and that all started with
By
her.
my count, they had
her-
2 before Taurasi, Oriema and the Lobo year. There was 2, and then it was 4.
Yeah.
Clinton Yates, how will you remember DT?
The words that come to mind with her are big-time hooper. She is so much a part of the fabric of what women's basketball is, you almost forget some of those incredible accomplishments that she had. And Rebecca Lobo said it best, I think. She said she's the most important women's basketball player in the modern era, dating back 40 years. I don't argue with Rebecca Lobo when it comes to matters of basketball, and I'm not about to argue with her about that.
Most important, would you call her the GOAT? That's the conversation that's always had, and many have gone there. WNBA voters went there when they had the vote a few years back. Best in league.
Hard to argue.
I would say, Tim Kalishaw and Clinton Yates, you may not be happy, but you are full right now. So they're coming up. Jen Latta, Kevin Clark. Can we just be judged by humans? Who said it? Come on, people.
Max Scherzer.
Right there on the screen. Thank you, Kevin Clark. Max Scherzer on the automated ball strike system. This is the least predictable story, or the most predictable story, I should say, in all of baseball, that he would not be a fan of robo-umps. You with Max, Jen?
Oh, won't something ever go correct for Max Scherzer, the 3-time Cy Young Award winner, the 2-time world champion? When I think about Max Scherzer's legacy, I'm never going to think about what his ERA was or if they got every single pitch correct during spring training. It's March, it's beta testing, we can all relax.
Kevin Clark?
Max Scherzer, let me ask the robots. Suggestion denied. We are bringing the robot umps to the sport. We're bringing them to Dunedin. We're going to have them for next spring training. We'll have them for next season. This is a half measure. I'm good with it. Deal with it,
His
Max.
bigger problem would be with Alejandro Kirk, his catcher, in this particular instance.
Yes.
His framing
Framing
was
it.
unbelievable. We'll move on. Showdown 2.
You talk about the elephant in the room. These are the things that are really challenging because there's no discrepancy on us wanting him to continue to lead the way and be our quarterback. How do you continuously, as a head coach, look at the short term and the long term and be able to figure out what does that really look like?
Sean McVay on Matthew Stafford. Kevin, what did McVay just say?
A whole lot of nothing, but he did it with hair gel. He said a lot of cool words, so we're going to not really see through that just yet. State of play is very simple. Stafford wants more money. The Rams don't want to give him that kind of money. I think he goes elsewhere.
Yeah, ladder.
Yeah, money, moolah, cash, credit, cheddar, coin, whatever you want it to be, cabbage. It's all about money. I think Stafford realized that the market is larger than he thought for his services, and he can get $50 million from another
Cabbage?
team. Probably doesn't want to leave, but will chase
I've
that
never
money.
heard cabbage before. I've heard word salad, which is exactly what that was. We'll give the point to ladder. We'll move on. Showdown 3.
No doubt in my mind that Justin Herbert is not only one of the great quarterbacks in the NFL today, but truly one of the great quarterbacks of all time. I mean, I would follow him to hell and back.
Jim Harbaugh on Justin Herbert. I ask again, Jen, what did Jim Harbaugh just say?
What he says about every single quarterback that plays for him. He did this with Andrew Luck and Colin Kaepernick, Alex Smith, J.J. McCarthy. I'm not even sure J.J. McCarthy is that good. And now with Justin Herbert, he always praises his QBs effusively, just pouring confidence into them.
Sounds like Jim Harbaugh is eligible for a job at The Ringer with all of this Justin Herbert praise. I understand that part of it. And by the way, he did follow Justin Herbert to hell and back. He went to the Chargers organization to coach him.
Kevin Clark, take the face off.
Yeah! An unbelievable story out of the Big Ten women's basketball. Northwestern University, my wife went there, go Cats, had to forfeit 2 games. This came down earlier today because they were not able to reschedule 2 games in Los Angeles against USC and UCLA. This is an unbelievable story. They were not allowed to fly there because of the wildfires. Hey, Big Ten, you've built this unwieldy geographic mess of a conference, and now they're not able to play these games again. Doesn't work in the schedule. There is no way you can say this is a forfeit. You got to figure out a way. Just make it a null game. No forfeit.
Thank you for today, Kevin, Jen,
Could have
Tim.
possibly seen this coming.
We're on a 23.5-hour break.